Hello and welcome. My name is Mariah Jane Thies, the Artistic Director of the Radiant Dancer. And I'm here to share with you today what I call the missing link in dance training, brain integration. What does brain integration mean? Well, in the next half an hour, you'll come to know what that means and why it's so important. First, just a few moments about myself so you know that you can trust me. I've been teaching dance now for 37 years, and for the past 25 years or so, I have been incredibly interested in why some dancers appear to be talented and why others seem to struggle. Is there really such a thing as talent? And my answer is yes and no. I think there is talent, but I think so often when we see a student who looks like they're talented and they're going to make it because everything looks easy for them, they've got the body for it, it's because they get to learn and perform in an integrated state. Again, you'll come to know what that means. And it also means maybe that they don't have any reflexes that are interfering and sort of blocking the flow and development of their brain and body, which would include, therefore, coordination, strength, flexibility, all of it. So I've been super interested, and I stepped outside of the dance world into the world of brain gym and educational kinesiology, work on our primitive and postural reflexes, and touch for health, and brought that all back into the dance world. So you're just going to get a little taste of it today about what brain integration means and why it should matter to you. So first, what does integration mean? Integration is a way of talking about things that are coming together. They fit together, they work together. It's like they are pieces that come together and make a new whole. So we want to, in order to learn well and to perform well, to be able to be in a learning state with our brain. We want it to be integrated. We want all sections working together. And that can be just as basic as we want the right hemisphere and left hemisphere to be connected and having good communication. So you actually have a brain bridge called the corpus callosum, whereby your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere have connections. Many, many, many thousands of connections that go across. I think of it a little bit like a bridge between two little cities. Now imagine, funny story, but it helps, I hope. Imagine that on one side, one city, they made the best bread in the world. And on the other side, in that city, they produced the best cheese in the world. And you are a lover of grilled cheese sandwiches, just like me. So you go to one side to get the bread, because that's their specialty, and you go to the other side to get the cheese, and that's their specialty. You put them together, woo, grilled cheese sandwich. Now, what if there was an earthquake, or a tsunami, or just the river rose high because of the snow melt in the spring? Oh no, the bridge washed out. Now what? No more grilled cheese. I can't get across. Now, why did I tell you that story? Not just for my love of grilled cheese, but for you to understand that our brain is best served when the two sides work together. There's some functions that are on one side and some functions on the other, but they actually still work together, whether that be languages or numbers, or for dancers, coordination. Even actually understanding an image requires one side of your brain and the other side of your brain to work together. You may have heard about your right and left hemisphere being different. They are. And you are at your fullest potential when they are communicating together. That's your learning state. That's your ideal state that we're meant to and designed to live in. But sometimes that does not happen. And what makes the brain bridge fall away? Well, in the city, it might have been the rising waters or an earthquake. In your brain, it's when you have stress. Not the healthy stress, the growth stress that makes you stronger, but the distress that kind of tips the scales. Now let's imagine for a moment that you're back 10,000 years, 100,000 years. Heck, you could go back 250,000 years and look at the brain development of man back then. We had a lot of threats, basic survival threats. Mostly, if we're out looking for our dinner, we also have to make sure that we're not going to be dinner. So we were a predator of many animals, but we were also prey of many animals. The bigger beasts, if you will. the saber-toothed tiger. So if you're out there going on a hunt or even gathering the berries, you hear something, you see something, you're about to be somebody's dinner. You don't have time to think. You have built into your brain an absolutely automatic reaction that's often shortened down and referred to as your fight and flight. You may have heard of that. And it causes you to, as it sounds, flight would mean I'm running. I'm running as fast as I can to get the heck out of there. Hopefully outrunning whatever's decided that I might be a tasty meal. Maybe you're fighting. Either way, it's an automatic response that absolutely changes your chemicals that are actually running through your body. In particular, it changes even your calf muscles. That's important to know as a dancer. It actually tightens up your calf muscles. They're in a contracted state because you're running or bouncing around fighting. That's then meant to go away because, quite frankly, either you were eaten or you weren't. So the next part of the process is, okay, I didn't get eaten, so I just go for a nice walk back to camp, and I might not even tell anybody that I saw the saber-toothed tiger because, you know what, it happened a lot. We were always needing to be on the lookout. Now in our everyday lives of today, we don't tend to have those types of real live threats, but we have many fears or worries or anxieties or just even the stresses of learning, like going to school. Our ancestors didn't go to school and have to sit there and learn for hours on end, but you do. And then you go to dance school, and so you're always learning, and that's actually stressful. So what happens? Well, you have the two brain hemispheres, and you have a dominant hemisphere, just like you have a dominant hand. You also have a dominant leg and eye and ear. Anything that's creating movement or processing, you have a dominant side. You have a lead side that takes over and says, I'm in charge, I'll take over whenever we're under stress. So in an emergency situation, when you're under stress, then your dominant hemisphere, whether it be your right or your left, and it's not related to whether you're right-handed or left-handed, it takes over. It does about 80%, and the left goes down to about 20%. What does that mean? It means that you wouldn't get a grilled cheese sandwich. It means you wouldn't have full coordination or ability to process. It's almost like maybe I can hear the music well, but I can't hear the counts, or I'm able to hear the counts, but I can't connect to the lyrics. All those things that make you look like you're struggling, because you actually are. And it's because you're coming from what's called a homolateral state, which means same side, where I'm just out of one side of my brain, not working both sides together. They're no longer integrated. And I believe, and I've seen for, well, all the time that I've been working on this, so often that dancers are in that unintegrated, stressed, one-sided state, but they don't know it because they live there all the time. And they're used to the struggles because they believe that dance is hard work. And yeah, it is. But what if a lot of the struggles that you are facing don't need to be there if you're in an integrated state? So the two pieces I want to share with you is a little bit about how to get into the integrated state, and also just planting the seed that there's one other element about this integration that might be of really great interest to you. So I'll start with a few integration techniques for you. One of them is just simply to drink water in such a way that you actually hydrate yourself. Many people don't drink pure water, so make sure you have many glasses a day of pure water. That means no extra flavorings or sugars or anything else. It's just water. Maybe filtered water so that you're not getting the chemicals as well. So rather than just guzzling down the water, which basically is like you're pouring it down a tube, it's going to come in one end and out the other and you're flushing your system. Instead, what you want to do is actually hydrate your system. How do you do that? Imagine that you came home and saw a neglected houseplant. It's all dried up. Uh-oh, somebody didn't water it for 2 weeks. You probably know if you went over and gave it 3 cups of water, most of that water would just run right through. But if you went over and just gave it a little bit more than a few drops, a quarter cup of water, it would probably absorb it. And then you'd come back in a little while and give it a little more. Well, we're the same. We are an electrical system when it comes to our brain and our brain talking to our body. All the nerves you have in your body have a myelin sheath over them because that myelin sheath is like a fatty sheath, like what you see covering wires. It's conducting the electricity. And we know, I hope you know, that water is a really good conductor. So if you're dehydrated at all, you're not thinking your best. You're not thinking your fastest. Your muscles are not going to get the message as quickly. Plus, when you're dehydrated, it is a threat to your survival. So many people are out there drinking water, but maybe not pure water, or drinking a lot of caffeinated beverages, which counteract the benefits of the water. And so they are not only slower moving, slower thinking than they need to be, but they're actually under physical threat. Think of how your brain would be responding and your body responding if it thought it was actually starving to death. That's really stressful. I think everybody understands that starving to death would be stressful, but do you realize that being even 10% dehydrated is equally stressful? It puts you into a stressed state, much like that saber-toothed tiger would. So you could be in an unintegrated brain space simply because you need some more water. But you need to do what I call the sip, sit, and swallow. That means I take just a little bit of water, let it sit under my tongue for a few moments, as if I'd gone to a stream and just cupped a little bit of water in my hands and let the coolness come in and just really enjoy it. If I do that, I'm going to be able to give my cells just a moment to open up and go, oh, thank heavens we have some water. They open up and we hydrate. And I just take time. So if I've got a glass of water here, no matter how thirsty I am, I'm not going to drink all of it at one time. This would be like maybe 8 sip, sit, and swallow sessions in order to ensure that I'm hydrating, not flushing my system. So that's number one. Take care of your electrical system rather than just assuming it's fine. Take care of it. Lower the threat that's going on. The next thing you can do is integrative movements that help you to trigger the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere to work together. How can you do that? Well, a good movement is called the lazy 8. So think of the number 8, but it's lazy. It's having a rest on the couch. And you're going to simply take, I'm going to show you to stay within camera here, a movement that's going to be tracing that 8 up and around and up and around, and I can do it with my eyes. I could also do it with my arms. And just note that I'm going to go up through the center instead of down through the center. So up, sweeping through the center, and up, sweeping through the center. A lazy 8 is an integrative movement. I can do it with my nose. I can do it with my eyes. I could have somebody trace it on my back. That would feel great. I can do my whole arms with weight shifts and all that. Such an easy movement. Another integrative movement you can do is essentially walking. So if that saber-toothed tiger didn't eat you and you're walking back to camp, your whole body would reset, your brain would reintegrate by the act of walking. As I'm walking, my arms are swinging in opposition to my legs. So going for a good walk is incredibly important, and a lot of people simply don't do that. Or they don't go long enough, or they're holding the dog leash, so therefore their arms are not both swinging, and they're not getting the benefit of that integration. So what can you do? You can do what's called a cross crawl, where I'm simply bringing my knee up to my elbow, or my elbow down to my knee, opposite arm to leg, kind of like fancy marching, because maybe I'm doing it on the spot. I don't have time or room to go for a big walk. So I'm just going to bring my elbow to my knee and my elbow to my knee. And ideally, I'm squishing through the core, breathing out, so that I cross the center line of my body. By crossing the center line of my body, it means that my hips and shoulders are going to be working together. Another note that will make it even more powerful is if you make sure that you outwardly rotate your arm in order to come across and inwardly rotate your leg in order to come across. That changing of rotation inside what's called the global joints, your hips and your shoulders, means that you're sort of painting the inside of the 4 points of your core. You've got your head of your femur and the head of your humerus into the sockets of shoulders and hips, painting around, and it wakes up your core. And if you're really trying to squish across, you're going to have to breathe out. You'll be balancing on one leg, and you're going to wake up the core as well as the 2 hemispheres of the brain. And what's really cool is if you do it like that, not only would the movement of just right and left help that, but by activating the core, you are feeling more stable. It's like your brain knows that your body can't be knocked off. You've got a dynamic and active core. So sort of the movement that you see in the old-fashioned from the 1980s aerobics classes, it's actually useful. It's not just about cardio or anything like that. And with that in mind, you actually don't need to do it quickly. You can actually do it quite slowly, and then you can challenge your balance. The next point to do would be to find under your collarbone 2 little spots right on either side of your sternum. There's little indents, so make a C shape, thumb and 3rd finger, just a natural width, usually fits about right. So I'm going to find where my collarbones are, move below them, and then just come in a little bit and see if I can feel those little indents. And I'm going to rub those indents. And in the world of brain gym, which was some of my additional training, these are called your brain buttons. What's actually happening is you're rubbing these spots that are the end of the kidney meridian. And those are meridians that were discovered and delved into in traditional Chinese medicine. And the kidney meridian is quite fascinating. It's associated with fear and worry and anxiety. So I'm going to rub these points. I'll let my other hand go onto my belly button just to sort of center me and ground me a little bit there. And as I rub these buttons, I'm going to see if they're sore or tender. And in this case, this is an okay thing. If they're a bit sore or tender, you do need this. And I'm going to let my eyes move from side to side along the horizon, as if I was out, again, looking for dinner like a hunter-gatherer, and making sure that the horizon is clear of any threats. So I'm panning my eyes across, and I'm going to keep rubbing here, and you can switch hands if you like. I'm going to keep rubbing here until my eyes move smoothly and don't sort of jump or hop or skip anywhere in the center. Oftentimes, dancers find that they're rubbing there and there is a little hop and a skip, and it tells you that your eyes are not working together yet. That means both hemispheres are not working together yet. So keep rubbing and panning. You'll often find you take a nice deep 3-dimensional breath when you've done enough. And here's what you're really doing. I already mentioned it's the kidney meridian. Well, the kidney meridian starts in the ball of your foot. So if I was fighting or running away, I'd be bouncing on the base of that kidney meridian, what we'd call the K1 point, just short for kidney, the start of it. So it's like I'm unplugging, like taking the plug out in a sink or a bucket or something, and I'm letting all my fear, worry, and anxiety have an exit out of my body. So many people, non-dancers, typically just rub up here and move their eyes. You as a dancer, you can go down and hold a point down at your feet on the K1 point and just hold it there. And let almost like the rubbing of that spot, or like I said, just the holding, to sort of open up that end. You can also do little bounces around on the balls of your feet, like you are, again, pulsing on that plug to try to let it go. I would do both. And you're releasing your worry, fear, and anxiety that's going to keep pulling you to your back survival brain instead of allowing you to be in your thinking brain and your connected brain that you want. There's one more thing you can do. It's called a hookup. And it's super calming for the body and the brain. And it's what I actually suggest dancers do right before an exam, a performance, a competition, an audition. You're not going to get any more warmed up or any better that last 3 minutes before you go in the room or on the stage. But you could sort of blow your circuits, be overly stressed because of your nerves, and boom, get out of your integrated state and no longer be your most coordinated. You wouldn't have the core activation to have support. You suddenly kind of flail around. Your strength has gone down. Your balance has gone down. That's just the effect of nerves, and it's okay that it happens, except that there's actually strategies to prevent that from happening. Okay, so I'm giving you 4 of those right now. One of them was water. Make sure you're hydrated, your electrical system is working, and you're simply not stressing your system out by it thinking, you're gonna die in 3 days because we're dehydrated. And number 2, rubbing these points to release your fear, worry, and anxiety. Number 3, doing the cross crawl actions to activate my core while I do both sides of my brain activation. And then this final one, the hookup. So you're going to have your arms out, palms down, with your thumbs facing down. And you're going to cross over one arm over the other hand, drop down and loop it through. That's what the arms are doing. Now take the arms apart one more time, and your legs are apart in a parallel second. Then cross over so your ankles, the outside of each ankle is touching the other ankle, and cross the same arm as leg as you cross over, and then loop through. So you're standing there with super crossed legs, nice and snugly if you can, and your arms crossed and fingers interlaced here, and you just get to stay there. Now, I can't do it because I'm speaking to you right now, but what you can do is put the tongue on the roof of your mouth just behind your front teeth, and that's another little connection point that helps you to really balance. And just stay there and breathe. If you want to challenge your balance system, you can go ahead and close your eyes. And maybe after 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you want to go ahead and change sides. That's fine. Go ahead, change sides. And once you're starting to feel really calm, take your feet apart and just let your fingertips come together. You can look at your fingertips and almost imagine I can see my brain bridge. And that brain bridge is working. And I could have a yummy grilled cheese sandwich because everything's working together. Feels really good. So again, those 4 things: good water, hydration, get rid of your fear and anxiety, just touching here or the specific spot on the ball of your foot. Wake up both sides of your brain. You can do some lazy 8s. You can bring your elbow to your knee and finish with a little hookup. Those 4 things can be quite transformational for before you take class, and you're going to learn better because you will have shored up your brain bridge and calmed the worry and fear that could be getting triggered. And they are absolutely what I'd recommend that you do when you are wanting to calm the nerves before a performance on stage or before walking into an audition room. And I would even do it before you have a test at school. Why not? Be at your best. Now, the final note after all of this about brain integration and what that means, that the 2 sides work together so that you can be at your best and basically feel talented because you're at your best. There's one more missing piece, and it's a little bit more complex, but I'll just share it right now. When you get a new computer out of the box, it has an operating system built into it so that the basic functions are going to happen. We are all gifted with basically an operating system as well when we're born. In fact, that operating system happens even in utero. And it's a bunch of pre-organized in the proper stages for the development to help you go from being a baby that's just kind of swimming around in utero to now having to deal with gravity, to get tone in the front and back of the body, to get organization so I can crawl and stand up, to develop the arches of my feet. These are all called reflexes. They're things that are automatic and built into us. The problem is that not always does that happen. Ideally, all of these reflexes that are automatic and happening at specific stages with specific triggers happens. The reflex shows up, develops, and then goes away back into the system, and we are only left with our postural reflexes that makes it easy for us to just hold our head up and have a core engaged so I'm not slumping at my desk or something. But oftentimes there's interferences, and it's a bit fascinating sometimes to know the story of why a certain reflex may not have worked for you to emerge, develop, and integrate. Maybe it never emerged. Maybe it didn't develop much. Maybe it developed, but it didn't integrate, and it's still interfering with your system. It's a very fascinating study about your reflexes, and one that I'll just leave you with as an interesting note is you are born with flat feet. Have you ever seen babies' footprints? They're flat. They're really cute that way. They look different than ours. And within the first 2 years of your life, you go through all these various reflexes that help to develop the movements to get you ready for walking. And that includes triggers that help to lift the arches of your feet. Dancers who have flat feet, it means that reflex didn't emerge. Dancers who have really high arches, it means that reflex emerged, developed, but never went away, and it's kind of still developing and lifting, and they get higher and higher, and they're super unstable because they never finished. Well, there's a solution for that. If you've got flat feet, that's a reflex issue. If you've got high arches that are really unstable and wobbly, and you got those banana feet, there's a solution for that too. So my final notes for you are, you were born to be brilliant. If you're not trying to be brilliant in a stressed state, so there's some strategies to help bring you back, or I would even suggest doing them in advance to prevent it. Imagine that brain bridge again, or the bridge between the two cities. If you know there's an earthquake coming, wouldn't you go and make it a stronger bridge? Yeah, so you can do these integrative activities, the 4 I shared with you, to help make that bridge stronger, or to help put it back together after a stressful event. And the other piece to know is, again, you were designed to be brilliant and have ease and coordination and all the strength and flexibility you'd want. And if you feel like you're kind of pushing against a wall, you might look and go, how come that looks easier for that person but harder for me? Please don't think like it's just bad luck for you. It is most likely a reflex that is interfering and you're having to fight against it. But you don't have to fight anymore. So if you want to know more, please reach out. I do one-on-one sessions for people with reflexes, as well as specifically helping people to be in that integrated brain state when it relates to a specific goal. So you can work on specific movements from the world of brain gym that I'm trained in and bringing to the dance world happily. You can work on a specific goal that is currently making you feel stressed, and we can help it with certain movements to go, that goal I now have an integrated brain about, and now you're going to be able to achieve it. You're not going to keep almost like having a self-sabotage of having your circuits blown and you're like, well, I was going for this goal and then I got nervous and it all fell apart. So we can do a brain gym session, we could do a reflex session, and we can also simply talk to your body and ask it, what do you need? How can we support you best? So if that interests you, please reach out and I'd be happy to work with you further. The missing link, brain integration. Thank you for listening to this, and I hope you go have right now a little sip of water and maybe even go for a walk. And I also want you to remember that you were born to be brilliant. You do have the facility in your body. Let's just make sure that there's not a blockage and that you're not living in a stressed brain state. There are solutions. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and good luck on your journey. You are clearly a serious dancer, or you wouldn't be here right now watching this. So congratulations on your dedication and determination. You're well on your way. Again, my name is Mariah Jane Thies of the Radiant Dancer.